Roli, can you confirm you can hear me? I've just moved to some earphones.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Roli. This is Lalit. I think I'm on the right link, right?
Yes, you're on the right link.
Awesome, perfect.
Yeah. So just for your information, this session, all the panelists have joined here on Zoom, and this is being live streamed on our CII Hive virtual platform. So the participants are going to see this live streaming on the platform as well as on YouTube, just for your information.
Thanks.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening, Mr.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Thank you.
We'll start at 5:30, another 3-4 minutes. Mr. Ramachandran, we're waiting for Yuri to join. Should we start or should we give it a minute?
I'd say let's give it a minute.
Sure.
Yeah. It has just turned 5:30 in India. Why don't I?
He's there. He's joined.
Great.
Hello.
Hi, Yuri.
So should we go ahead and
Okay.
start?
Yes, please. Yeah, I'd say we roll.
Rituja, over to you.
Is Rutuja there? I don't see her on the call.
No issues. So we'll just start.
Yeah.
So very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 6th edition of the Advanced Technology Program in Agriculture, the global dialogue and Agtech around the theme Technologies to Mitigate Climate Risk. With India holding the G20 presidency this year and CII being the B20 secretariat, this global dialogue is a part of CII's G20 B20 engagement, and we plan to scale it over the coming year. Agriculture both contributes to climate change and is affected by climate change. The increasing temperatures are resulting in reduction of yields in key crops while encouraging weed and pest proliferation. Further changes in rainfall patterns are increasing the likelihood of short-run crop failures as well as long-run production declines. To mitigate climate risk, the agriculture sector must scale adoption of technologies that help improve yields and to achieve production with right food quality with minimal use of resources. Given this background, CII has curated this conference and has curated 5 sessions over the next 3 days, which will deep dive into global advancements in technology by providing an opportunity to listen to global solution providers about their technology and explore opportunities for their adoption with respect to climate change in India. On these sidelines, this second thematic session of the first day is on IoT in agriculture. IoT, as you all know, is a key enabling technology in climate smart agriculture as it provides a mechanism for remote monitoring of farms as well as data acquisition for informed decision making. In the session, we will discuss innovations focused on data collection for farm management, predictive analysis, farm sensors, and others. We have an illustrious panel of innovators with us today, and to chair this session, we have with us Mr. Ramesh Ramachandran, member CII Core Group on Agtech, and Senior Vice President and Head of Farm Sector Strategy, Mahindra & Mahindra. Mr. Ramachandran's current role encompasses both strategy and development, as well as identifying and incubating new revenue opportunities. He has 25 years of experience in innovation, marketing, strategy, and P&L management. He also has 6 years of early work experience with Shell in India. Ramesh has an MBA with distinction from INSEAD and MMS from the SP Jain Institute of Management and Research and a BSc Honours from St. Stephen's College, Delhi University. To run this session, I would now hand over it to Mr. Ramachandran to take it forward.
Yeah, Roli, thank you very much for the introduction, and good evening to all of you, all on the panel, all who are attending as part of the audience. Very warm welcome to everybody on this CII session. I'm very happy to be chairing this for the second time in a row. We have an exciting line of panelists from across the world, all of whom, like myself, live and breathe what we call Agtech today. Now, before I introduce the panelists, I think it's just worth reflecting a little bit on the ebbs and flows in the global Agtech market, which I'm sure all of you encounter and experience. We've seen the high level of interest that was there in the Agtech space. We've seen some cooling off of the interest in the investor community, perhaps a little more recently, basis the way they want to judge startup performance, the metrics they're using to judge startup performance. And I'm sure as founders and CEOs, all of you who are on the panel realize that this is an additional layer of challenge that we have to manage besides just our day-to-day work of building products, finding customers, driving traction, et cetera, et cetera. But all said and done, and I'm saying this with an eye on the wider audience here, What we all emphatically believe, certainly as part of the panel and as part of people who are driving this Agtech sector forward, there is a change that this sector has created, which is potentially irreversible. It's not a change that we can predict in terms of how long it'll take to come into effect the way we would like, but the impact on business models, the impact on the technologies which farmers are using, app usage, digitization of processes, the impact on income, all these are things that I'm sure we all believe have created irreversible change. The die is cast, as they say. So for people who are eager to become part of this change, and change there certainly is, it's actually a great time to be part of an Agtech. So on that positive note, let me just introduce this very seasoned panel which we have here this evening with us, all of whom are very distinguished in that they have first-hand experience of building startups, which is fantastic because we hear it from the trenches, as it were. So from Switzerland, we've got Martino Poretti, who is the co-founder and head of X-Farm, which offers farmers in Europe digital support to improve their decision-making. And this is based on a platform. It's called the X-Farm platform, which collects data, analyzes field data. And what is good is that there is a proprietary IoT network that drives this. Very interestingly, X-Farm calls itself a platform that is created by farmers for farmers. And I'm sure the audience would be quite keen to know where that came about. Welcome to the panel, Martino.
Yes, thank you very much, Ramesh, for the invitation and for the presentation. Yes, I present briefly myself. As you introduced, I'm a co-founder and head of IoT of X-Farm Technologies. I don't know, should I have the brief presentation right now?
No, I'll probably just introduce all the panelists if that's okay, and then we'll get the discussion started. Yeah.
Sure, then thank you very much, and I'm glad to be here.
Pleasure. From the US, we have Lalit Gautam, who is the founder and CEO of Sense Grass, which is also a digital farming startup. And they are pioneering the use of a wireless NPK sensor, which is powered by AI, with very specific use cases. I'm sure there are many, but a couple of them relate to how to use fertilizers and water in a more optimal manner. Welcome to the panel, Lalit.
Thanks, Ramesh. Glad to be here.
Pleasure. From Switzerland, again, we have Yuri Vasilkov, who is the CEO of Gamaya. That's a company that offers large farming businesses digital agronomy solutions, also based on a platform. It's the Gamaya remote sensing and AI platform. I, of course, have the pleasure of knowing Yuri and working with him through my role as board member of Gamaya over the years. Welcome to the panel, Yuri.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Likewise. From Israel, we have Dr. Nisri Benishti, who is the founder and CEO of Agrio, a startup that offers a farm management platform for farmers as well as for scouts to easily run their farms with a quick capture of data and also a range of tools, analytics tools that use AI. Welcome to the panel, Dr. Nisri.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. So introductions done. Let me just kick the discussion off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just ask each panelist to speak for about 6-7 minutes, 8 minutes max, outlining two things. The first is, what does your company do? I'm sure the audience would like a very quick overview of what your company does, what's your area of focus, what products and services do you offer, etc. And secondly, having done that, it'll also be interesting to get your thoughts on scaling challenges. So what is actually holding back your business or your ideas from widespread deployment? So I think the audience will find it very interesting to understand about that as well. So what I'll do is I'll probably reverse the order in which I invite people to talk. And I'll invite Dr. Nisri Benishti to go first with, please tell us, what does your company do, your area of focus, and what are your perspectives on the challenges of scaling? Over to you, Doctor.
Yeah, sure. So Agrio is a company that is trying to solve the problem with plant protection. Plant protection is somehow complicated subject for farmers. And what we are doing is we are trying to make information accessible to everyone, including smallholder farmers. These days, we have the smartphones that penetrated very well to the markets. So it's very easy to make information and even sophisticated technology like artificial intelligence accessible to the individual user that holding a smartphone. Our solution, we know that there is a problem with extension officers. There are not enough experts in the world that can support farmers with the daily dilemmas that they have regarding pests and diseases and other subjects, but we are focused on the plant protection. So the idea was to develop a very simple solution that allows farmers to take a picture of the plant and to do the diagnosis with artificial intelligence and computer vision algorithms, so that the farmers and the field inspectors can get results on what is the problem with the plants and how to treat it within several seconds from the moment that they took the picture. So Agrio is being used by almost 1 million users all around the world, iPhone users and Android users. And based on that, we were in a position that we were able to collect a lot of information on problems in the field. So we know exactly what pests and diseases we are currently having around the world. So it's making sense for us, at least it made sense to try to develop analytic tools to predict those problems and to see those problems very early, for example, using satellite images. So based on all this information, we trained artificial intelligence algorithms to try to see if the anomaly can be identified from satellites before you can see the symptoms on the plants. We are using other wavelengths that are not apparent to the human eye. And with that, we have the capabilities to see more information that the farmer is seeing when he's going to the field. And we are building other things. We are building weather models to predict the migration of pests. We know that those things will change radically during the change of the climate. So there are more problems, a different number of generations of pests, and farmers find it confusing to deal with all those the changes, and we are helping them to predict that. One case was the identification of the spread of the fall armyworm to India that we did in 2018. This pest was very familiar to us from our work in Africa. And when it just arrived to India in July 2018, we got an image from a farmer in South India, identified the problem, and we were able to alert all the farmers in the region, explaining them, transferring all the information that we learned from our experience with this pest in Africa. We were able to transfer it to farmers in India. Regarding so this is a very quick summary of what we are doing. Regarding your second question, I think that the main challenge right now is making farmers more educated about how technology can help them. We think that the barrier is still there. It's still in the willingness of growers, farmers, extension officers to adapt new technologies. Yeah, I will finish here. I hope that it answers your questions.
Yes, no, it certainly does. And if I may just come back with a very quick question to tease out a little more perhaps about the scaling challenge. Is your insight something that you feel holds across the various geographies that you work with? or is this more, is this more an experience that you get from working in, say, a developing environment as opposed to a developed environment?
Yeah, so Agio has several different audiences. I described the use case of the farmer, and in the developing countries, we are mostly targeting the farmers that need the help. But if you are talking about East Europe, for example, there we are more relevant for the agronomists, the scouters, the crop inspectors. And there the problem is different. So I think that the main challenge of adaptation right now, if I'm trying to look and see what is the bottleneck, where is the problem is the worst, it's still educating the small farmer in developing countries that technology can be very, very useful for them.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doctor. I mean, maybe we can come back in, the second sort of session of conversation with perhaps some of the ways in which you are tackling that problem, which I'm sure is something that resonates with the audience at large. Okay, so let's move next to Yuri. So Yuri, same questions as for Dr. Nessi. So please share with the audience, what does Gamaya do? What is your area of focus? What do you sell? What do you make money from, etc.? And also, from your perspective, what are your business challenges? I know that your customer base is not really the small landholder farmer, it's a different customer base. And from your perspective, what do you see as the scaling challenges? Over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ramesh. So I would use the slides just to help to illustrate the story, if you don't mind. Can I share this?
Please go ahead, yeah.
And I didn't use PowerPoint for so long, so I almost forgot where it is. Okay, so so what is Gamaya doing? So we call ourselves is an automated crop intelligence company, and we actually focus on the products.
Yuri, you may want to just put this on slideshow, just so we can see. Yes, please. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm embarrassed to tell that I forgot. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Now it is. Okay. So we are an automated crop intelligence company. So we traditionally and historically were working in Brazil, where, as Ramesh you mentioned, so it's a large scale farming. That's our main probably playground. Though we quite successfully collaborated with Mahindra in India, right, as a part of our work. But I will talk mostly about Brazil. And there, at the moment, if we talk about the company and what we call automated crop intelligence, so we build the solutions that can give growers black and white answers. Not maybe, not we think that you have a problem. So we really kind of go in deep, and we're trying from the scientific and data science point of view, give a very clear guidance and give a very clear definition to the grower what's happening. So one of our example of the work which we were doing for quite a significant period of time is detecting nematodes on a soybean using satellite imagery. So that's a proprietary Gamaya IP protected technology. And then the second big problem, for example, in sugarcane growers, which is also a big part of the Brazilian market, is actually improving and automating harvesting operations. So in a little bit more details, just you have a picture and you have an understanding. So for soybeans, so we're building the nematode damage map. So we could provide to the grower overview of his fields. And as you see here on the map, the growers are rather big, right? So here the soybean grower that actually managing a couple of hundreds hectares. And then, of course, we give a deep insight into each and individual field, what's going on there with the nematode pressure. And we're building this without, so to use it in a scalable way, only based on satellites, because only that can provide a scalability which is required for this market. The next product which we are selling right now and which is commercial. So we're helping growers who are growing sugarcane, and they harvest sugarcane 5 months a year, or 8 months a year, if we talk about Brazil, to find the optimum harvesting window that actually can help to improve to the growers their yields, right? Their sugar yields, which actually bring them quite substantial money. So that's another product which we do. And what is behind all of this? Behind all of this is quite a complex artificial intelligence model that we are working on improving and developing this not for the 1 year. So it's a kind of quite a journey. And this model is not only based on a satellite imagery, right? So of course, vegetation indexes is a big part of it, but actually it uses a lot of agronomic data, which we collect from the growers. It uses a lot of weather data. It uses a lot of data about the growing environment. And this model basically help us to give an answers, right, for the questions and to give a precise answers for the questions. So if we talk about the precision levels that we could achieve working for soybeans and working for sugarcane, so we could see the numbers which are above 90%. And that's what we as a company are proud of in terms of the achievement. But we are not stopping there, so we're moving in the next chapter. And now we are attacking the playing field of the sugarcane from the decarbonization point of view. It was well mentioned in the introduction that we live in a time of the climate crisis, also on the soil conditions being worsening and worsening each of the year, right? And now in agriculture, we see the new trend, regenerative agriculture. And we see our mission to address also implementation of regenerative agriculture at scale. So we're starting to do this business with sugarcane because that's the crop where we have the most experience. And then we can, of course, continue and could expand in other crops. And there we are solving two technological problems. So on one side, we need to ensure that regenerative practices are being followed across all the hectares in a consistent way through many years, because only that should give a result of capturing CO2 from the atmosphere and improving soil health on one side. But on another side, we need to also measure in economically viable and scalable way, so how much actually soil organic carbon was stored in the soil, and that will become a basis of the benefits that could be provided by the growers, by many players and many parties in this world who are interested in having those benefits and trading those benefits on the market. So that's in a nutshell. So where Gamaya today and what we're working on and what we're doing from the introduction point of view. Now, if we come to questions, Ramesh, that you addressed. So I see there are three things, so which is actually not helping maybe, or let's say, making it a bit challenging, right? So the life of Agtech. So first challenge, I would say, is a fundamental. We cannot change it. We cannot avoid it. It's a long cycles in agriculture, right? So to make anything happen, so we should complete at least a year, right? So it's an annual learning cycle, both for startups who are developing technology, as well as actually for the growers who are using this technology. Same problem in most of the places in the world appears only once a year. Right, and only in a few places you could have 3 crops or could have 2 crops, but long cycles, that's one fundamental challenge which we need to work with, and we need to appreciate and just take it into account. We cannot avoid it. The second piece, I think, for growers, what we're learning to make, let's say, Agtech tools and Agtech technologies relevant, they should have a substantially big improvement that they can see, that they can notice, and they can appreciate. Because what is happening in many cases, investments in some other technologies, so we are competing for investments in many technologies, even though Agtech is, let's say, a fraction of the cost of buying a new machinery or something else, but still it's a competition for the resources and for the allocation of resources of the grower. And of course, we need to demonstrate substantially big improvements also in the financial terms that the growers would consider this. That's another quite important factor. And of course, that comes along with education, because unless you demonstrate to the grower and unless you make grower to believe that this technology works, among many other factors influencing the field, you have a yield improvement. Is it because of your technology or is it because of something else, right? So you need to differentiate it and you need to be able to show this, that this is your technology, this is your solution actually helped to make a change and help to make it kind of substantially big difference. And then you're going to be considered. And then I believe the growers would be willing to spend money on this. That's our challenges: cycles, substantially big improvement, and very clear visibility that your technology helps to improve the operations.
Yeah, very interesting. So Yuri, thanks for taking these points head on and making it clear and putting them on the table. I'm sure they are not new to the panelists here, and I'm sure some of the audience as well. So we can come back in the second part of the session and talk a little bit between all of us on what are the things you could do to deal with these challenges. But thank you for that, Yuri. I will now request Lalit to go next, please, and just share with us what does SenseGrass do, and your perspective, please, as well on scaling challenges. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Ramesh. Good evening, my fellow founders and the audience. I'm Lalit. I'm the founder and CEO of SenseGrass. We're a soil intelligence platform. So eventually, we have started this company with a mission of providing the real-time soil health insights to the growers and the corporates to make the better decision making. So one of the biggest problem in the Agtech industry is especially when we talk about the soil quality and the soil testing, is a very manual and labor-intensive process. And it doesn't matter whether we are which part of the world, US, Europe, India, or Africa. Highly time-consuming, very traditional. And I think the most important part is the growers are actually not trusting these kind of solutions, right? Like going to these labs and getting these things done. And of course, the entire agriculture and the decision making usually based on the soil quality, what's exactly is happening under your soil as well. So what we decided to launch, to start developing this or making this labor intensive and a complex soil testing process into a more digitalized way by providing a very plug and play soil sensor. So we have two key components in the company. The first key component is our own patented soil sensors. These soil sensors actually is a plug and play device which includes and measure almost 12 parameters like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, pH, moisture, EC, so on. And then we combine the soil sensor data with the 3 additional data, like the satellite images, climate data, and the input data from the growers, and use an AI algorithm, which we call the AI agronomist, to calculate the multiple silos or the data points to provide a very personalized recommendations. So another pain problem, I think, for the growers and the corporate is definitely gathering the data from the different sources. But I think converting this the raw data into the decision-making support system. So we have seen there were some analytic platforms and the agronomics in the market, but I think especially if we are working on a similar farms or a similar geography, even the two people are actually works in a two different way. So we decided to create this recommendation engines to provide a very personalized recommendation, even if two farmers are working close to each other. So in a nutshell, I think on a backend side, we working with a lot of data points, especially our own proprietary data sets, and of course, some of the publicly available data sets as well, and converting into the decision making and the recommendation insights and the actionable insights. The couple of things I think which we trying to transform in the Agtech space is working more towards the soil and the soil quality. We have seen a lot of companies working towards the crop health management, crop management, disease management as well. But I think I always consider the soil is the soul of the agriculture. And if you are not solving the soul of the agriculture, I think you have a very basic problem in the Agtech industry. I think I'll take the more time to talk about the challenges here rather than talking about the SenseGrass. And I think one of the biggest challenge is with a hardware company is always the scaling. hardware and IoT businesses are like chicken and egg. You want a very proprietary data set, you want a very private and personal data set, but you don't want to scale it or spend the money on the IoT side. I'm talking about like all these stakeholders, whether these are investors, other the growers and the other stakeholders as well. So one simple example is like in a human body, when you go for any kind of diagnostic and test, they have to insert a syringe in your body and get the blood out of your body to get a kind of proper test results, right? So I think the similar kind of model usually works in the soil and agriculture as well. So one of the biggest challenge in IoT segment or an IoT, that's the reason like most of the company you will see mostly depends on the drone imageries and satellite imageries, because scaling a IoT based businesses is always hard, especially in agriculture segment. The second thing actually is the affordability. Being myself as an Indian but working in the US market, even though US has always been a very big market, like big family farms market, like still like selling a kind of IoT solution in a decent price is always a challenge as well. I think the farmers, if you really want to create like a big set of the network and the mesh network of the IoT, you definitely have to make a very affordable solution as well. And I think this is only possible when you can scale it. So the first problem and the second problem actually very, very much interconnected in this segment. The third part, I think, is the awareness and education. Farmers. I'm being myself as a third generation farmer. I think the farmers are the most intelligent folks on this planet, right? They have years and decades of wisdom and ancestral knowledge about these farmers. So if you really want to sell your solution to them, if you really want these farmers and grow really want to use your solution, I think you have to bring those kind of value proposition that make a lot of sense and a differentiation in the life of these growers. And that is possible with the help of the education and awareness. So if you see the entire ecosystem of Agtech companies, you will find like there is a kind of a crowded space of an Agtech companies on one side, and then there is another one. But if you see this kind of high deep tech technology, where I have all my founders here in this panel, like the education, the awareness of these kind of solutions and technology to the growers and farmers is most important, so they can use these kind of solutions more often and more frequently, not just to the large corporate family farms, but I think also to the small scale farmers. Again, this education is not related or restricted to the farmers and growers. This is also should be like especially applicable to the other stakeholder as well. So let me share my experience with the Indian ecosystem as well, because like if we try to like work with the several governments and the other the cooperatives and the corporate here in this as well. So the level of kind of the innovation is still required to go up in the coming years as well. So I think these 3 to 4 challenges, I mean, like there are several challenges. For example, the data part as well, the lack of the data. So for example, if most of these companies in this panel are using AI and ML, and if you really want to bring like in a very sustainable and a very innovative solution that is really making any sense to the life of the growers or the corporates, you have to really make a very high advanced AI model. And the AI model will comes with a lot of data. So a proper set of infrastructures for these kind of an agriculture data, like in the public libraries and all. In some of the developed countries, like this is already like the data registry is there for the agriculture, but like many of these countries still require to set up these kind of data registry as well. So the companies, the research institutions can use these kind of data sets to make and build the better solution. So I think these 3-4 challenges I usually see currently in not just in our case in SenseCross, but I think the overall Agtech ecosystem, whether this is in India or US or any other part of the world.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Lalit. So I think that was a very, very honest and insightful capture of many of the things that Agtech startups, and certainly resonates with me from my experience as well in this space, both as a practitioner as well as being on boards of some companies. But that is indeed true. And Lalit, we look forward to some of your thoughts on how we might solve some of these things as well going forward. So thank you for that. And eventually we come to Martino. Martino, thank you again for joining the panel. Over to you for your inputs on what does X-Farm do, and your thoughts, please, on scaling challenges. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Ramesh. I will also use some this slide to
Yes, please.
support the presentation. Do you see something? Let's see.
Yeah, we see the slides. We just need the slideshow. Yeah.
I think there is an issue. I don't start. I think something is not working. If it's fine for you, I will just keep it like this. Because it's blinking all the time. I think, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're struggling, yeah, it's fine. We'll just see them the way they are. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay, sorry for the inconvenience.
No problem, no problem.
Technical issue. Yes, exactly. So I said I'm head of IoT at X-Farm. So what is X-Farm? Is an agri-tech company specialized in the digital agriculture and precision farming. So we have been founded in 2018. We have now around 70 people working from 4 offices. From Switzerland, Italy, Spain, and France. So our market is mainly Europe. We are expanding in South America and North Africa mainly, and we are looking also for new, let's say, new development. Yeah. So our mission is to digitalize agriculture. So let's say if you take Europe, only 10% of the farm currently they use some digital tools in order to manage their farm. So we see a big potential, and also let's say it's a must for the farm to get more efficient in order to survive at the end. So what we offer is a full management platform which cover all aspects of the farming. So from the classical registry, activity, products, and so on. We offer as a premium model, so you can just download the application in the smartphone or on the web and use it. And we add then a lot of other vertical of services, and most of them enabled also through IoT. So the IoT, in our case, is an enabler of services into the farm management platform. So the big value that we see, and also the reason why we build as it is because the farmer, one of the main requests that they have, when also we did some surveys, is to have one tool to get all the information. So we are like an aggregator of all what is around farming. So this was the way that the platform has been built and its uniqueness. So who can use the platform, the full supply chain from the farmer itself in order to improve his efficiency and work better, save resources. The agronomy, so who gives suggestions to the farms, they can deliver their services through the platform. Farm organization and trader also, they are supported through this digitalization in the sense that they have the control of what happens on the farm. Generally, it's very hard to know what is happening in the farm. Having digitalized it gives an advantage to the whole supply chain. And at the end, also the food industry has big advantage because, for example, they can know if something goes wrong during the early season, they can hedge themselves and be sure that they have enough production to sell their product. So having this digital information is really key to, let's say, improve the efficiency of all the food supply chain. Currently, we have around 1,000 farms which are using the platform, around 2 million hectares, mainly in Europe, but we are also expanding to other continents and sectors. Just a brief introduction of what are the functionality in the farm. As you have seen, we try to cover all the aspects of the farming. So you can go from the map, the activity, warehouse, products, loads, nodes, machinery, maintenance, and usability. The finance part, so we can have real control of every field, know the profit and loss of every single field, which gives them the margin to improve the efficiency and to get the best out of the farm. Then, as we mentioned, we have a lot of let's say decisional support system, which are mainly enabled by IoT. So in this case, IoT is enabler of services. For example, for irrigation advice, pathogens, forecast models of insects, for local weather, notification, and on how to use the product, if you can use the product or not, all which helps in order to prevent error and saving also the use of products and water. Then we have use also of satellite imagery as also an input. So also in this case, all the input must be, the value of the platform is to elaborate a lot of data, the input, in easy suggestion. So in this case, the farmer needs them to get an easy advice, an easy tool in order to solve this problem. So the complexity is to make the suggestion easy and understandable for the farmers. We then the machine integration, because the topic is IoT, so the tractor and the machines and the tools are like big IoTs. They provide a lot of data. The platform is, let's say, an aggregator. It receives all the data, and we transform them in tools and easy suggestions for the farm. The integration of the machinery can happen in different way, cloud to cloud with a third-party provider, device to cloud, or even we can use the platform itself as like an Android Auto, for example. You put your tablet, your smartphone on the tractor, it receives the data of the machine and the tools, it transmits to the cloud, but also it acts as let's say a monitor with real-time information of what's happening in the field, with some alerting and so on. This we see as a big part of our business coming out of it, and we see as a big potential in the digitalization, bringing the digitalization into the farms. We cover then the classical part of sensoristic, weather station, soil sensor, plant sensor, automation of irrigation, and monitoring of the insects. Also in this case, the other value is to have all the services in one place and to share, let's say, the input and output with all the services. For example, for a business model, we developed in-house a team of the business model. We have an agronomical team dedicated for that. In this case, so the way that we do is to give also an easy output. So the farm as a factor of, let's say, of protection based on the product that he has been using, and a factor of risk of potential pathogens that are coming. Given these two, let's say, output of the model, the farmer can then decide when is the best time to give the protection and in order to save also the product. The irrigation models in this case enable via satellite, via sensor, or with both of them, depending a bit on the use cases. As has been mentioned before, the hardware is the hardest part to scale, since regulation, certification, and so on. So we offer different type of way to enable these services, also completely sensorless through satellite images and data. And also in this case, the output is how much to irrigate and when. So exactly what the farmer asks. We have them a set of traps in order to monitoring the insects. Also the pests in general that they provide. They cause a loss of almost 40% of all the world production. So it's a big topic in order to know better when to use the product in order to be more efficient and to save them, because also it's a big cost, the product, chemical product, in order to fight the pest diseases. Also, we develop also, we have a team which develop the hardware itself. We have some innovative way to monitor the insect. For example, for marmoset testing bugs, we have a special sensor which detects the passage of the insect. So it's not done via imagery and machine learning or image detection, but really is counting every insect which is passing and entering the trap. So all these, the benefits are, as we said, clearly saving the water usage in irrigation with the advisors, saving the product. The second cost in a farm generally are the chemical products or fertilizer products. So saving there is a big benefit. And also administration. So having all the data aggregated, really it's easy the decisions and make React much faster. Exactly, this is a brief overview, and to come back maybe to your question about the challenges. Exactly. So the farms must be more efficient. This is a need to survive. They need to be more efficient. The cost of fertilizer and products has been increasing dramatically in the past year, also the energy prices. So it is a must that they need to have tools and processes in order to increase their efficiency. So this is given, let's say, but how to get there, we agree also with the panel. For example, Yuri said agriculture is rather slow, so you have a yearly cycle. You need a lot of training. So is digitalizing the farms. You cannot have, let's say, a full digital sale process as we would like. It would scale very fast. Unfortunately, you cannot. You still need to demonstrate the value of your product. For example, what we do when we enter a new country, we build some model farms. So we deploy the full solution to some farms in order to show to the others what are the benefits and use them as, let's say, as champions in order to show the validity of the solution. It will take still quite some years in order to be able to sell to the farms in a full digital way the products, services, and others clearly. Another point is also the way how you sell them. So in agriculture, generally they like to buy the things, not to pay as a service. So it's still not always easy, at least in some less developed parts, to be able to sell services. So because they are used to buy things, like they buy the tractor and so on. So although the way that you sell needs to be adapted a bit on the situation and cannot always be the one that you would like, let's put it that way. And this it implies to be adaptive in the type of customer and the type of country where you are selling the services and proposing the digital solution.
Thank you. Thank you, Martino, for coming in with your thoughts on the scaling challenges as well. Before I continue, really just a quick time check. We have till 6:45 p.m. India time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So let's just move on to perhaps a follow-up question to the panelists. I'll ask this question in two parts, and maybe to some extent you've answered some of it, but let me ask anyway. So clearly we have a scaling challenge. It's something that as participants in the Agtech sector, we all experience, we all deal with. And of course, it's compounded by the fact that like all startups, we have funding constraints. So we are trying to manage what we have to achieve as a business within the runway that we have. And that is, of course, an added layer of pressure. And what I'd like all of you to just share with us is, in order to scale faster, there are things that obviously are more in your hands and you are doing. And can you please share with the audience, what is it that you're doing to scale faster? Is there anything innovative that you're doing in order to scale faster from the perspective of your business? That's the first part. The second part is, if you had to appeal or talk to key stakeholders, the government, investor community, big manufacturers of products, what would you request them to be doing differently to help scale faster? So the question is, what are you doing to scale faster? Any innovative ideas that you'd like to share? And secondly, if you were to talk to key stakeholders, what would you like to see them do differently, whether it's the government, investor community, big companies, etc.? So I'll probably follow the same order as I did for the questions, the first set of questions. So I'll first invite Dr. Nessie to come in, please.
Yeah, so I think that I can divide the solutions to two. There are solutions in this industry that are trying to do it more high touch. They are trying to meet all their clients, go talk with them, explaining them why they need the technology and why they need to start to use it. And this is a big challenge, I think. We are always talking about scaling up, and we are talking about the Silicon Valley model. But in the Silicon Valley model, the scale is not coming from going and meeting the client. It's going from building a solution that you can distribute very easily to your users. But then coming different. So we took the low touch approach. We developed a solution. The solution is available out there. It's very easy to use. You can download it and start today. You can do whatever you want. You can order satellite images. You can do everything with the app without talking with us at all. But then there is coming a different problem, which is how do you build trust without meeting your client, without meeting your user? But I think that if you ask me, and this is the approach that we took, because we believe that if you really want to make a change in this industry, you need to take this challenge of building the trust and try to do it low touch, building something that is useful for a wide audience and not something which is very narrow, and try to distribute it like that. So this is my answer for your first question. For the second question, I'm not sure that I have a good answer, because I believe that the solution need to come from the interaction between the startup or the company developing the solution and the end user, the farmer, the agronomist. I don't think that we need someone in the middle to help us to do that. If we can a little bit of do some cheating and ask for a government help or a big company help, but then it's misleading, because we don't know if the end user is using our product because there is some kind of help from the government, or if the big company pushed for it, or if it really helped them to solve some kind of a need. So I think that going straight to the client and giving them the benefits and seeing how they react to that, this is the way to go. This is my answer.
Great. Yeah, very interesting, unique perspective. So, Doctor, just a quick follow-up question, perhaps for the benefit of our audience. You have made this very interesting distinction between businesses that are more intrinsically high touch and businesses that are more intrinsically low touch. And I think that is particularly appropriate in the world of agriculture. Now, how do you see the trade-off, having made a choice on the low touch space or towards low touch? How do you see the trade-off between high value and low value? So the value generated for customers tends to be correlated with how high touch or low touch your operation is. So did you consciously think of, okay, if I go low touch, I'll have low value, but I'll still be able to find a way to be big scale in terms of revenues? I mean, could you just talk us maybe a little bit through your thought process there?
Yeah, so when you go low touch, you can bring huge value. It really depends on what you are building. I don't think that there is a problem here. This is not the problem. When you go low touch, you have a big advantage that you can sell your product in a cheaper price. You don't need to hire salespersons to go and meet the farmers and so on. And so you can distribute with less expenses. This is one big advantage that you have. It's not a matter of value. You can develop something, and if you build the product correctly, you can deliver everything without explaining what the product is doing, or without doing a very elaborate onboarding face-to-face with the farmer. It's just a matter of building trust. How do you provide a solution? And again, it's a world in which the end user is used to meet the service provider, shake their hands, see them in front of them. So how do you build this trust with the end user without meeting them? And I think this is the big challenge.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So yeah, inhabiting that sweet spot between being low touch but still delivering high value. That's a good aspiration. Yeah. Let me invite Yuri next. Yuri, if you can just come in with your thoughts on what is Gamaya doing to scale faster, anything innovative that you'd like to share, and what would you, if you had the opportunity to influence key stakeholders, what would you like to see them do? Yuri, you're on mute.
Thanks. Thank you, Ramesh. So probably would like to make 3 points. So scaling fast, this is not about Agtech. So therefore, for the reasons we spoke about, right? So you can make faster scaling within the Agtech space, but out competing some other, let's say, industries that are competing for venture capital. I think it's mission impossible in most of the cases. So that's one of the, and therefore agility in Agtech, I think that's just a, let's say, must have. So it's not just nice to have, right? So it's must have, because it's very easy to burn a lot of cash and to produce a lot of features, but actually you will struggle on adaptations on features. And what is my observation in Agtech space? So companies much faster producing features that they then able to sell it. So having said so, what we're trying to do is to really kind of have a focus, really trying to understand and not talk about everything, right? Which we have, for example, on our platform with the growers. So not try to solve every single point, really to understand what is the most pressing need, what is the biggest contribution we can make from the value creation, and just to attack that space and really make sure that everything is built around that one, which is we understood the problem we need to solve. Second, we have a very clear value proposition. We have a very clear delivery mechanism that the growers can, while using, can evidence also the success that they are making. So you need to visually show it, because we said it's very difficult to prove that your solution is working. And then you have a ticket to the game, right? So then you can expand into the other places, but you have to start with the most important need. And that actually requires implementation of all the classical IT processes that were invented again in other industries. So we are not leading here in inventing methodologies, so we can adopt a lot of good experiences which people in other B2B space were doing already before us in many other industries. So that's what we do, right? To make sure that we scale faster in our space. And then if we come to my wish to the stakeholders, so I think, first of all, I can't complain about Swiss government. We are very well supported in that sense. So thank you very much. What I would like to say is that I was more kind of talking about corporates, right? So I think when we talk with the corporates, and they have a big role right here to play, because sometimes you kind of collaborate and you co-create a solution which you cannot do yourself because you just don't have all the knowledge, but you have enough of, let's say, courage, flexibility, and nimbleness to make it happen and to attack those things. And we have a good examples in our portfolio when people thought it's impossible, but it actually was possible. But then what is difficult sometimes is to engage with the corporates. So we kind of normally startups stretch on the resources, right? Because we have to go agile. So we have one person is playing multiple roles. And of course, when you start talking with a big corporation, there is one person for each of the tasks, right? And you need to entertain in a way, right? And satisfy the needs and desires of this person. And of course, people sometimes kind of a little bit hesitant to take a risk. So they really need to make sure it's going to work. And answers like startup normally says, you know what, we don't know how we're going to solve it, but we solved something similar. And I think we'll find a way. That's the point of the research, which we offering to do it together. So just be more open to take those risks. And maybe through the planning initiatives to say, okay, with some of the startups, you're going to get benefit. With some of the startups, it's going to be learning experience. So maybe it's more like a VC mindset because they are not getting returns for every single collaboration. That will help to speed up this space a little bit, because otherwise we have to spend too much time probably trying to engage and missing the opportunities altogether.
Great. Thanks, Yuri, for sharing that. Lalit, over to you for your thoughts on the scaling question.
Yeah. So Ramesh, and I think there is a two problem actually. So there is a one thing, or in terms of the scaling, what we have done is there's a one option where you can simply go for a very frugal approach of like building these kind of solution and delivering to your farmers to make sure like whether this is solving some of the basic problem and then eventually go for the better and the higher value proposition as well. And the second one actually is like just to keep the R&D continue and try to like use those your R&D not just to bring the better value proposition but also reducing the pricing as well, right? And I think that's only possible when you work with a lot of farmers or the corporates in terms of the pilots as well. So what I'm trying to tell you, like at least in our case, I'm only talking about in our case what we have done to reduce these kind of like or increasing the scaling of the sense class solution is we reduce the price, like we change the kind of model of the product. So let me give a very quick example. So earlier the original version of our main product was like in a plug and play device, right? It was designed for these like large farms and also the corporates. Usually was like in a higher cost, because there was a multiple parameter was coming into the one single solution. So we actually, when we went into the market and we realized like, what exactly is the requirement of these farmers and growers, what we have done is like, we just simply put like the same kind of probes or the multiple parameter into the three different devices. So instead of, for example, like instead of one single device in say, let's say $500, we break down to the three versions, like the basic, pro, and the pro plus, right? So the far more and more growers can afford these solutions, like instead of $500 into the $100 device. That is one thing we have done it. The second thing what we have done is like we also have changed the concept of the product. So instead of plug and play, we made like a scanner kind of device and on the go kind of device. So the one sensor can use by the now 10 farms or 100 farms instead of each farm having or installing these kind of sensors. So that is second thing what we have done is. The third thing actually what we have done is in terms of the distribution part. So instead of like, because you as a startup a lot of time can build a very great product, you can do the research, you can do the innovation, but when it comes to the scaling part, you have to be, I think you should pass this kind of thing to the other stakeholders. So we also have like partnering with these other kind of stakeholders in terms of the financings, the corporates, and maybe like some non-profits cooperative to subsidize the pricing of these kind of devices so the more and more farmer can install it. And the fourth last thing that we also have integrated the, like as I said earlier, we started as a hardware company, but then we have also integrated some of the like equally a farm operating system or a recommendation engine, which is a completely SaaS approach. So it's like, it's, if you're not using the sensors, you can simply go for a SaaS approach and then you can upgrade later on once you see the value proposition. So everything we have learned from the market, right? Now coming to the second part of the question is, and I think this is very important, and I always say one thing, like an Agtech space, I'm not talking about any other industry, but I think the Agtech space, one company cannot change the entire world. So in Agtech, you have to be an inclusive approach. For example, if I'm building a product, I should be I don't mind and hesitate to work with like Yuri or Dr. Nisai or Martino to integrate and collaborate in terms of, and not just like the companies to companies, but I think also with the other, like corporate should be open enough to share the data, integrate these kind of APIs and decision making support. The government should be think like in a corporate. So government should comes like in a with more subsidized approach and come up with like the more pilot opportunities to bring these kind of, because agriculture is a state is a subject of state, right? It's not like in a kind of private institution. So, for example, like in India, the entire soil health card scheme comes under the government of India, right? So the government should become open up and act like in a private and a corporate mindset. The fourth one, actually, from the investor side, like in the last few years, we have seen great investment in the Agtech space, but I think there should be more non-dilutive opportunities, funds should be come from corporates and the government, and also from the private VCs and investors. They should invest more into a high deep tech. Right now, what I've seen is like, and I can mention India for an example. Like a lot of tech investment comes from a more marketplaces approaches, like more marketplace domain as well. But like there is all like equally. Deep tech companies are also require a similar kind of support from the investor sides as well. So I think these are some message, or I would say the request from the stakeholder, from the governments, from the private companies, and as well as for the investors and my fellow startup founder as well, because we have to collaborate then only, because it's such a huge market. It's such a big market. It's one of the biggest industry, right? So we cannot going to be like digest alone, and we're not going to be solve all these problems alone as well. So I think these are some of my inputs.
Great, very comprehensive. Lalit, thanks. And I think there is a very clear message to, this is the right forum, by the way, Lalit. So it's a very clear message to a lot of key people who come together to create this whole ecosystem that we're all building. So thanks for sharing that. And then Martino, your thoughts, please, on scaling.
Yes, thanks. Yes, scaling, I mean, it's key. I mean, if you don't scale, you don't survive. So it's a very key topic. And I guess from our experience, we almost failed at the beginning because we tried to sell the platform and the services directly to the farmer, which was very important to learn, to understand the customer, but was impossible to scale. So we then completely changed the business model, and we went offering the platform to the key player, to the corporate. And we find this the way to scale. So you don't go what we call B2S, or business to farmer, but you go directly to the company, for example, food company or a machinery company, which they have already all their customers, and you provide the services to them. Indeed, what we do, we rebrand completely the platform. They present themselves the platform, and they share the revenue. They enable new services, and this was the way to scale. But still, when we work to them, they call us the developer with the booth, and we are very proud of that, because going at the beginning to the farmer, and we still go to the farmer directly, is where you learn. So agriculture is many big companies fail to enter agriculture because they didn't have the feeling, the knowledge to approach agriculture. So it's important to understand how the farmer works, how the farmer thinks, but you cannot scale digitally on the farmers. So you need to go top down. So this is the way we change our business model. And yeah, so this is a bit what we can say. And the best is when the farmer goes to his, let's say, corporate, proposing our tools. So, you go top down, but with the influence of the farmer, which has a good feeling of the product. This is the best win-win situation. But to scale, you cannot start from the bottom. It's still not a digital world where you can do that. It will happen, but it's not yet the case. And to the corporate, the second question, yeah, the corporate need to be guided, so they are not able to deploy, to roll out the new product fast. They have to be focused on details, maybe meaningful details, so you need really to guide them. So you need to have a path ready, and you need to replicate to corporate. You need to present that not only with the product, but with the way to deploy the product, like a package. And this helps to go fast and to get there and help the corporate and help who want to promote the services. And what I would like from them is not to focus on the on the process, on what is around, but to focus on the goal. So they need to deploy something. This is the goal, less on the process and so on. It's difficult because normally corporates are very keen to lose time on meaningful details.
Great. Thank you very much, Martino. Thanks for coming in. So we've got 5 minutes left, and I would like to take at least one audience question as well, which I'll ask, and then I'll perhaps just throw it open to whichever of the panelists would like to share their perspectives on this. And this is to do with a very hot topic, and that's climate change. So the question is, to what extent are there challenges in using analytics which are related to climate in sort of coming up with meaningful value propositions? So I'll just sort of rephrase that question. What are the challenges related to data analytics that one faces in the field of climate smart agricultural practices? So it's a question that I'm going to leave open. I'm not going to direct it at any particular individual. Some of you might have more experience on it than others, but I think it'll be useful for some of you to just share your thoughts on this, if you may.
I can maybe kick it off, and then I think if we speak specifically about the challenges of using data, I think we must be mindful that agriculture is the very local process, and like other speakers here, right? So we're talking, and Lalit specifically, right? So two farmers working next to each other, right? So doing their work slightly differently. Not to mention farmers in the different regions, not to mention farmers doing different crops, not to mention farmers working on the different continents. And I think in the climate smart space, and I mean, having access to the data and having and knowing what to do with the data, I think is a key for success. And unfortunately, I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I don't think there is a silver bullet that can, globally address the same challenge everywhere, right? So there is no global model that can address the same challenge everywhere. So it's really have to be locally adopted. And that's another challenge for scalability, but that's the nature of agriculture.
Interesting. Yeah. Anybody else has any specific experience they'd like to share on addressing the whole climate challenge using analytics from some of the work that we do as part of the Agtech sector? Not particularly. Okay, fantastic. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for that very energizing and insightful discussion. Many things I'm sure the audience would have learned from this, not least how to build value propositions in a way that can scale faster. So interesting concepts, low touch, which Dr. Nessi spoke about. We had Martino talking about how you should be open to sharing value with other people so that things can scale faster when it comes to distribution. We had Yuri talking about visualizing the impact of a very clear value proposition for the farmer so that they can actually see the outcomes. We talked about, it was Lalit, I think, who talked about flexible value propositions so that you don't lock yourself into a certain price point and a certain type of offer, and you're able to flex it across the spectrum basis the needs of the market. So all very interesting takeaways for the audience here. And then, of course, the layer of collaboration and working together in the context of a full ecosystem to make that change. And I think some of you made a very clarion call for that. So with that, let me bring this very interesting session to an end. And I'd like to personally, and on behalf of CII, thank all of you. Thank you, Martino. Thank you, Dr. Nessi. Thank you, Lalit. Thank you, Yuri, for joining this panel, and have a very good evening.
Thank you very much. Same to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye all.
Thank you, Mr. Ramachandran, for moderating the session, and to all the
Pleasure.
panelists for this insightful discussion. Also, I take this opportunity to thank all the delegates for joining in. With this, we end day 1 of the Global Dialogue on Advanced Technology. Tomorrow, we have 2 very interesting thematic sessions lined up on carbon smart farming and blockchain, and we look forward to all the participants joining in for the same. I also take this opportunity to thank our principal partners, ITC and PI Industries, our principal co-partners, Mahindra, Tefe, Olam, Triveni Engineering and Bayer, and our associate partner, Corteva. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Bye-bye.